We are talking to Dr. Karen Davis on Go Vegan with Bob Linden. She's the founder and president of United Poultry Concerns. Prior to the break, we talked about the chickens in battery cages and how awful it is for them to be debeaked. It sounds like their beaks are their way in the world, and we take it rather casually that all of the birds are debeaked. Those in the cages are. And did you have something else to say about those in cages, or we should move on to...
I think we can move on. We can still talk about debeaking when we move on to cage-free operations, which I'll be glad to briefly describe and distinguish from so-called free-range, because they are supposed to be different from each other. First of all, most hens who are kept for egg production are debeaked at the hatchery. Many of these so-called alternative...
Do they starve? Are there problems with them eating then?
Well, here's the thing. Chickens evolved in nature to forage. That is, to be scratching and pecking around in the ground to find food, to find all kinds of nutrients. They use their beaks, and they need to use their beaks. It's a genetic need, so that if they are forced to live in an environment where their beak can't be exercised in a normal way to forage, then they still need to use their beaks because it's part of their nature. It's an inherent part of what defines them as chickens.
So debeaking is cruelty. There's no...
The point is, yeah, of course it's cruelty, but the thing is, the reason that the industry debeaks these birds is because they have a need to peck. And if they have nothing normal to peck, they will be driven from various causes to peck at each other. Even, for example, a chicken's need to dust bathe, which is how they practice bodily hygiene along with preening. Researchers have found that the need for a hen, or a rooster for that matter, but studying hens, that the need is so endemic in them to dust bathe that they actually, and since they have no dust bathing material, that is no earth to dust bathe in, no earthy material, they actually will start trying to rake in other birds' feathers because they have a need to take a dust bath. So they will perform what's called vacuum dust bathing, and they will actually undergo a perceptual alteration in these conditions where they actually start to see other birds' feathers as a form of earth.
You know, we take these wonderful feeling animals and just turn them into these machines with no thoughts for their needs. It's really awful.
I would say they're not even turned into machines. They're really turned into a form of real madness and insanity. The industry refers to them as egg-laying machines, but sad to say, given those conditions, they're not experiencing themselves as machines. They're experiencing themselves the way anybody does, with a body full of sensations and feelings and so on. So they're actually, unfortunately, not turned into machines. They're still as alive with hearts beating and all of the things that make them living creatures. Only they're in conditions that are 100% destructive to their nature. One of the reasons why it's very, very moving and very fascinating if you ever are amongst such hens when they are brought to a sanctuary such as ours here in Virginia, and you see them step out onto ground for the first time in their lives, and how when they are in an environment that does answer to their inherent nature, how readily they will begin to recognize the things that make sense to them and take advantage of those things.
So,
moving on to cage-free.
Yes, please. And
cage-free operations, free range, it means that there's some outdoorness to the life of the birds or whatever animals we're talking about. At least theoretically, a free-range farmed animal, a chicken or a turkey, is supposed to be able to spend a large portion of the day outside. Now, they may be outside in thousands at a time in the case of chickens. But this is different from cage-free, which is the type of operation that would be most likely used as an alternative to battery cage operations. If for example, in California, Proposition 2, as of 2015, really does go into effect. And
that's a long wait, by the way. It's the last year of Obama's second term that we wait for it to go into effect. And the sooner the better for any alleviation of suffering. But when we heard then that Stop Animal Cruelty vote Proposition 2, the fact that the cage-free birds are debeaked kind of contradicts that.
Proposition 2 is not going to even come close to stopping cruelty. Speaking specifically of egg-producing hens, egg-laying hens, you can't get any crueler than the battery cage, really. I mean, it's just the worst. So everything is a step up from the bottom of the bottom, you might say, as far as misery and cruelty are concerned.
But what would a cage-free facility be?
Well, a cage-free facility is a large building that stuffs most operations. I mean, not every single operation is exactly the same, but standard commercial cage-free operations. Okay, the hens are going to be indoors their entire lives. They're going to live basically indoors the way chickens and turkeys and ducks who were raised for meat are forced to live. That is, just crowded wall to wall in a building from which they will never emerge until they're sent to slaughter. They will still be sent to slaughter after a year or two, the same as battery-caged hens. They, again, will still, in most cases, be debeaked. And the thing is, as more and more people turn to cage-free eggs, the larger the operations will become, the more crowded they will become. And a big problem is that when you have mass consumption and you have mass consumer demand for animal-based food products, you're always going to have a mass production situation or system. There's no escaping that. You can't have millions and millions and even billions of people demanding, eggs and meat products that are relatively inexpensive or even very inexpensive, and not have huge operations in which birds and other animals raised for food are going to be extremely crowded.
So how many birds might be in a cage-free facility, a large?
20,000 is kind of standard right now, but there's a place in Virginia that is now boasting that there are 48,000 birds.
48,000 birds in a cage-free facility, all debeaked, all going to be slaughtered, right? And are they gassed? Is that how they're slaughtered?
Well, you see, birds are not covered by the not that it's humane truly, but there is a Humane Methods of Slaughter Act on the books. This has been the case since 1958. But birds, all poultry, birds are totally excluded from the Humane Methods of Slaughter Act, even though they represent far and away the largest number.
We probably have about another minute left, Karen.
First of all, I'd like to encourage people to go to our website at www.upc-online.org.
upc-online.org. It's United Poultry Concerns, yes.
And we have a great booklet that we published just recently called Stick Up for Chickens, Go Vegan on the left-hand side of our homepage, and it's a PDF. You can click it on and look at all 24 pages, and we also have it available as a 24-page booklet that we've been passing thousands of out to people. It includes recipes, information about health, animal farming. It's really got everything. And so I strongly recommend it. It's full color. It's really beautiful. Great way to start educating people about how easy and how important it is to go vegan.
Right. Yeah. Well, going vegan is the only way to be cruelty-free, apparently. And so, not to disparage, I don't want to spoil the party, the celebration for Proposition 2. But if we, really examine this, it looks like Proposition 2 does not stop animal cruelty. It doesn't really create humane farms if there are 40,000 birds stuffed in a shed. So people do have to realize that the real step toward alleviating the animal cruelty and removing oneself from it is to go vegan and stop consuming animal products.
Absolutely. That's the only solution.
Thank you, Karen.
You have to go to the source, Proposition 2 goes after the suppliers of the products derived from animals. But the source is not being affected by that, except insofar as the information that has been publicized in the Proposition 2 campaign has hopefully led some people to decide to go vegan as a result of what they've learned just about how badly chickens and pigs and cows are treated.
And the source is demand. Thank you so much, Karen Davis of United Poultry Concerns.
Thank you, Bob.